Imagine waking up one day to a silence so profound it has a weight of its own. It's not the absence of sound, but the absence of you, or at least, the you you've always taken for granted. The mental chatter, the internal to-do list, the faint hum of anxiety about the future, the lingering echoes of yesterday's conversations, all of it gone. For the first time, there is only pure, unmediated perception. The way the light cuts across the floorboards, the slow, steady rhythm of your own breath, a strange, unsettling peace. Then, like a ghost returning to its machine, it all comes flooding back. The name, the memories, the desires, the fears. The persona you present at work reassembles itself. The collection of wounds and triumphs you call your past clicks into place. You are once again a coherent, continuous self. You feel a flicker of relief, followed by a disorienting question. Where did I go? And more importantly, who or what has just returned? This is not a dream. It is a glimpse behind the curtain of your own mind. We live our lives convinced that the voice in our head is the absolute, unassailable core of our being. We trust its narrations, its judgments, its endless stream of commentary. It tells us who we are, what we want, and what we fear. It is the author of our story. But what if this author is not who we think it is? What if this I, this cherished central character of our existence, is merely a tenant in a vast, uncharted mansion, a complex system of psychological inheritance built by forces we barely comprehend? Consider the contradictions you live with every day. You consciously desire health, yet you make choices that undermine it. You crave deep, meaningful connection, yet you erect walls of distraction and superficiality. You plan for a future of freedom, yet you find yourself enslaved to the immediate gratifications of the present. You believe yourself to be a kind person, yet you are capable of flashes of jealousy, pettiness, and rage that shock you, that feel alien, as if they belong to someone else. Where do these alien impulses come from? Why does the rational mind, the you that makes plans and sets intentions, so often feel like a minor official in a kingdom ruled by unseen forces? You decide to be productive, but a profound lethargy drags you down. You vow to be confident, but an ancient, visceral shyness grips your throat in a social situation. You tell yourself you are over a past hurt, yet a song, a scent, a turn of phrase can plunge you back into the emotional landscape of that pain, fully formed, as if no time has passed at all. This is the central, unsettling paradox of human existence. You are both the ruler and the subject of your own psyche, the driver and the passenger in the vehicle of your life. You believe in your own free will, yet you are constantly confronted by parts of yourself that operate with a will of their own. This is the ghost in your machine. This is the silent, shaping hand behind your choices, your relationships, your suffering, and your destiny. What if the key to unlocking a life of profound meaning, authenticity, and power lies not in adding more knowledge, more strategies, or more positive affirmations to this fragile I, but in daring to look behind it? What if you could meet the ghost? What if you could venture into the mansion of your own soul, not as its anxious tenant, but as its master? The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung dedicated his life to mapping this uncharted territory. He proposed that the path to wholeness is not about perfecting the persona, the mask we show the world, but about confronting the vast, often hidden, architecture of the unconscious mind. He offered not just a theory, but a master key, a way to understand the language of these unseen forces, to integrate them, and to fundamentally alter the course of your destiny. This is not about self-improvement. It is about self-discovery of the most radical kind. It is a journey to the center of the self, to reclaim the parts of you that you have lost, denied, or never knew existed. The journey begins with a single, terrifying and liberating admission. You are not a single, unified self. You are a multiplicity, and the first step toward wholeness is to meet the committee that has been running your life without your conscious consent. The committee is not a metaphor. It is a psychological reality. Carl Jung called its members complexes, emotionally charged clusters of thoughts, feelings, memories, and energies that operate as autonomous, splinter psyches within the greater totality of the self. A complex doesn't feel like a thought. It feels like a possession. When a fear of abandonment complex is triggered, you are no longer a rational adult. You are a terrified child, desperate and clinging. When a power complex is activated, you are inflated, grandiose and blind to your own limitations. You are, in that moment, the complex itself. It has its own voice, its own body language, its own agenda, and it speaks to you in the first person, masquerading as your own genuine will. This is the hidden problem. You are living in a state of mistaken identity. You have conflated the conscious ego, that part of you that navigates the daylight world that says, I think, I choose, I am, with the entirety of your being. This is the foundational error of the modern self. The ego is a necessary and vital organ of consciousness, but it is a recent acquisition in the long evolution of the psyche. It is like the captain of a ship, believing itself to be the sole creator of the vessel, the ocean, and the destination, while remaining utterly ignorant of the engine room, the vast cargo hold, and the crew, the complexes, who often mutiny and steer the ship according to their own, older maps. Jung discovered that these complexes are not random. They are not merely the result of your personal childhood traumas, though those certainly provide the specific imagery and texture. They draw their immense archetypal power from a deeper, universal layer of the psyche he termed the collective unconscious. This is not a personal inheritance, but a human one. It is the psychological equivalent of the body's deep, instinctual heritage, the innate knowledge of how to breathe, to fear falling, to seek connection. The collective unconscious is the seat of the archetypes, the primordial patterns of human experience, the mother, the father, the hero, the trickster, the child, the wise old man, the anima, the inner feminine in a man, and the animus, the inner masculine in a woman. These archetypes are the invisible gravitational forces that shape the orbits of our lives. You do not see the archetype of the mother itself. You see its manifestation in your personal, overwhelming mother, in your own yearning to be nurtured, in your impulse to care for others, and in the cultural ideals of motherhood. When you fall in love, you are not merely connecting with another person. You are projecting the archetype of your own inner unconscious feminine or masculine, the anima or animus, onto them. You are seeing in them the soul image you carry within, the completion you seek. This is why the early stages of love feel so fated, so divine. You have, quite literally, found your missing half. But the problem is, you've located it outside of yourself. This is the core of the psychological trap. The ego, fragile and young, is constantly being influenced, hijacked, and inflated by these powerful archetypal energies from the unconscious. The personal complexes are the landing points, the specific, individualized expressions of these universal forces. Your personal "I'm not good enough" complex is a local instance of the universal archetype of the outcast. Your drive for success and recognition is your personal expression of the hero's journey. This is where the philosophy of the abyss meets the reality of the mind. Friedrich Nietzsche, peering into the same void, declared, "When you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." He was describing this very process. The contents of the unconscious are not inert. They have a life of their own. They gaze back. They seek expression, fulfillment, and integration. When we refuse to look at them, when we repress what we deem unacceptable, our rage, our vulnerability, our primal desires, our grandiosity, they do not vanish. They gain a negative autonomy. They fester in the dark, growing in power until they erupt in neuroses, compulsions, projections, and destructive life patterns. You believe your critical inner voice is your own rational assessment of a situation. But often it is the voice of an internalized parental complex, an archetypal force of judgment speaking through you. You believe your chronic dissatisfaction is a result of your circumstances. But often it is the cry of the neglected self, the total, whole person you are meant to be, starving for the parts of you that you have disowned. Society, far from helping us in this task of integration, often actively encourages the division. Aldous Huxley's vision of a blissful, distracted conformity in Brave New World is not a dystopian fantasy. It is a psychological principle. A fragmented populace identified solely with their happy consumerist personas is a manageable one. The unsettling depths of the soul, the chaotic creativity, the holy rage against injustice, all of this is smoothed over, medicated, and scrolled away. We are conditioned to remain tenants, to keep paying rent to our complexes with our life force, never daring to claim ownership of the entire mansion. So you walk through life, a captain on a ship you do not understand, blown by winds you cannot see, toward destinations you did not consciously choose. The committee is always in session and you, the ego, are often outvoted. But the mutiny is not the end of the story. It is a desperate, coded communication from the depths, a message in a bottle washed ashore from your own forgotten soul. The consequences of ignoring these messages are not merely personal unhappiness. They are the very fabric of the life you are living, and the world we are collectively creating. The mutiny is not a single catastrophic event. It is a slow, persistent leaking of your vitality, a quiet sabotage of your potential that feels like life itself. The unseen consequences of this internal civil war are not dramatic failures that happen to you. They are the subtle, pervasive architecture of the life you are living right now. They are the water you swim in, the air you breathe, and you have mistaken their fundamental properties for your own immutable nature. Consider the peculiar feeling of being stuck in a loop. You find yourself having the same argument with your partner, only the names and dates have changed. You jump from one job to another, only to find the same dynamics of frustration and undervaluation waiting for you. You set a goal, pursue it with fervor, achieve it, and are met not with fulfillment, but with a hollow emptiness, followed by the urgent need to find a new goal to chase. This is not coincidence. This is the engine of a complex, running its programmed subroutine. An unresolved father complex may perpetually cast you in the role of the rebellious son or the seeking daughter, forcing you to reenact struggles for authority and approval with every boss, every mentor, every figure of consequence in your life. The complex, like a hungry ghost, demands to be fed the same emotional experience over and over in a vain attempt to resolve its original wound. This is how the past does not merely influence the present, it colonizes it. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, in his profound pessimism, saw this clearly. A man can do as he wills, but not will as he wills. Your conscious will is perpetually bent by the stronger, unconscious will of these psychic entities. You are free to choose your actions, but you are not free to choose the drives that compel those actions. You are a puppet who believes it is dancing of its own accord, unaware of the archetypal hands pulling your strings. This plays out in your relationships with devastating precision. Jean-Paul Sartre famously wrote, "Hell is other people." But he was only half right. Hell is the unrecognized parts of yourself projected onto other people. This is the psychological mechanism of projection. The qualities you cannot tolerate in yourself, your own capacity for cruelty, your latent laziness, your hidden grandiosity, you unconsciously perceive in others. You become a relentless critic of these traits in your friends, your colleagues, your political opponents. Your rage at another's arrogance is often a measure of your own repressed arrogance. Your disgust with another's weakness is a mirror of your own terror of being vulnerable. You walk through a world of your own making, a gallery of mirrors reflecting the disowned fragments of your own soul. This is why conflicts can feel so irrational and so intractable. You are not fighting the other person, you are fighting your own shadow, and they are doing the same. On a societal scale, this unconscious projection becomes the engine of tribalism, scapegoating, and mass hysteria. The evil other, the opposing political party, the different culture, the wealthy elite, the marginalized group, becomes the receptacle for the collective shadow of a people. We do not see them as they are. We see them as the living embodiment of our own unacknowledged greed, fear, and brutality. The collective complex, once activated, is far more powerful and dangerous than any individual one. It allows normal people to commit atrocities, convinced they are fighting for a righteous cause, because they have externalized their own darkness onto a faceless enemy. But the most insidious consequence is the erosion of meaning. Viktor Frankl, surviving the horrors of the Nazi concentration camps, concluded that the primary drive in life is not pleasure, as Freud posited, but the will to meaning. When you are living at the mercy of unconscious complexes, your life is not your own. It is a reaction. You are pursuing symbols of wholeness. Money, status, perfect relationships, a flawless body, mistaking them for the real thing. You are like a knight on a quest for a holy grail that you have been told will fulfill you, but you have no map, and you are riding in circles, chasing mirages. The grail is a symbol of the self, the total integrated psyche. But you are searching for it in the external world, in achievements and acquisitions, when it has been waiting for you in the deepest chamber of your own inner castle. This is the source of the modern malaise, the quiet desperation, the existential itch that cannot be scratched. You feel a vague, persistent sense of being an imposter in your own life, because in a very real sense, you are. The ego is an imposter king, ruling a kingdom it has never fully surveyed. You feel a deep spiritual homesickness for a home you have never visited, because that home is your own wholeness. The anxiety you feel is not a chemical imbalance to be eradicated. It is the signal of a soul in exile. It is the call of the self, the total you, urging you to turn inward, to stop decorating the prison of your identified ego and instead to find the key that has been in your pocket all along. The rebellion is not an option for the select few. It is the urgent, necessary task of every person who feels the hollowness behind the achievements, the chaos beneath the routine, the silent scream in the quiet moments. It is a declaration of war against the automatic life. But how do you fight an enemy that wears your own face? How do you reclaim a territory you have never seen? The key is not force, but curiosity. The rebellion does not begin with a violent overthrow, but with a quiet, subversive act of attention. You cannot fight the committee with the same weapons it uses. Its ammunition is your own unconsciousness. To fight it is to become it. The path to breaking free is not through suppression, but through integration. It is not about beheading the king, but about inviting the mutinous crew to the negotiating table and listening, truly listening, to their grievances. This is the heart of Jung's master key, the process of individuation, the lifelong journey toward becoming the unique, undivided person you are inherently meant to be. The first and most radical step is to cultivate a witness. This is a quality of consciousness that can observe your thoughts, your feelings, and your impulses without immediately identifying with them. It is the part of you that noticed the silence before the I returned at the beginning of our journey. When a wave of rage arises, instead of being the rage, the witness can say, "A powerful feeling of rage is moving through me." When a crippling thought of inadequacy appears, the witness can note, "There is a thought claiming I am not enough." This creates a critical space, a foothold of awareness in the landslide of emotion. In that space, you are no longer a puppet. You become the one who sees the strings. This is the foundation of all true freedom. From this platform of the witness, you can begin the most crucial work of the rebellion, shadow work. The shadow, in Jungian terms, is the repository of everything we deem unacceptable about ourselves, our primal instincts, our forbidden desires, our shameful weaknesses, our hidden grandiosity. It is the thing of darkness we instinctively disown. But here lies the counterintuitive alchemical secret. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your suppressed life force. Your rage, integrated, becomes the capacity for righteous boundaries and potent self-assertion. Your vulnerability, integrated, becomes empathy, depth, and authentic connection. Your arrogance, integrated, becomes healthy self-worth and the confidence to lead. The very qualities you exile to the darkness are the golden parts of your personality waiting to be redeemed. To do this, you must become a detective of your own psyche. You must study your projections. When you feel an intense, irrational reaction to someone, a seething dislike or an uncritical admiration, ask yourself, what does this person represent that I have refused to acknowledge in myself? You must study your slip-ups, your jokes, your dreams. The unconscious speaks in a symbolic language, and dreams are its pure, unfiltered text. That terrifying figure chasing you in a dream is not an external monster. It is a disowned part of your own psyche, your own aggression or power, demanding to be met. Write your dreams down. Sit with the symbols. Ask them, what are you? Why are you here? This is not superstition. It is a scientific inquiry into the inner world. This work requires a sacred container, a space where the persona can be safely set aside. This is the role of active imagination, a deliberate, waking dialogue with these inner figures. It is the process of personifying the complex. If you are plagued by a critical inner voice, close your eyes and invite that critic to speak. Give it a form. Let it tell you why it is so relentless. You will often find it is a misguided protector, a part of you that believes through a twisted logic that by punishing you it is keeping you safe from failure or rejection. By hearing it, you drain it of its autonomous negative power and can begin to transform its energy. This is the rebellion, to turn toward the very things you have spent a lifetime running from. It is to say to your anxiety, your depression, your anger, you are part of me. I will no longer exile you. Tell me what you need. This is not passive. Acceptance. It is the most active and courageous stance a human being can take. It is the hero's journey inward, descending into the underworld of the psyche to retrieve the lost treasure of your wholeness. History and myth are filled with those who broke free by engaging with what others fled. Viktor Frankl, in the absolute darkness of the camps, found his freedom not in his circumstances, but in the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. He was exercising the witness. Nietzsche's concept of amor fati, the love of one's fate, is not a passive resignation, but a fierce embrace of all that has happened, the light and the dark, as necessary for the creation of the self. He declared, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. The chaos is the unintegrated unconscious. The dancing star is the individuated self. This path is not for the faint of heart. It is messy, uncomfortable, and often painful. It is far easier to remain the tenant, to blame the world, to numb the discomfort, to scroll through the digital opiate of modern life. But the cost of that ease is your soul. The rebellion is the decision that the pain of remaining a fragmented prisoner is finally greater than the pain of becoming whole. It is the commitment to no longer live a life of quiet desperation, but to answer the call of the self, no matter how terrifying the path may seem. For at the end of this path lies not just freedom from your patterns, but a revelation so profound it redefines the very nature of reality and your place within it. The ultimate truth, the final destination of this entire journey, is not that you must find yourself, but that you must create yourself. And in doing so, you discover that you are also found by something infinitely greater. The master key does not simply unlock a door to a static, preordained, true self, waiting in a pristine chamber. It unlocks a process, a perpetual becoming. The treasure you retrieve from the dragon's cave is not a golden statue, but the transformative fire of the dragon itself. The ultimate realization is this: the goal of individuation is not the perfection of the ego, but the birth of a new, regulating center of the personality, what Jung called the self. The self, with a capital S, is the archetype of wholeness, the divine spark within the human psyche. It is the total, integrated being you are meant to become, encompassing both the conscious ego and the vast, dynamic universe of the unconscious. It is the sun around which the ego, now humbled and enlightened, orbits as a loyal planet. When you live from this center, the war is over. The committee has not been disbanded. It has been integrated into a functional parliament. The critic's voice is heard, but does not dominate. The orphan's grief is felt, but does not define you. The hero's courage is accessed without its attendant inflation. You are no longer a single, brittle note, but a complex and resonant chord. This is the paradigm shift that redefines everything. Your life ceases to be a linear path toward a distant goal of happiness and becomes a cyclical process of unfolding, like a tree growing its rings. The struggles, the suffering, the moments of darkness and confusion are no longer meaningless obstacles to be eradicated. They are the necessary friction that grinds the lens of your consciousness, the raw material from which your soul is sculpted. The shadow, once your tormentor, becomes your informant, your source of depth and authenticity. The persona, once a prison, becomes a flexible and authentic tool for navigating the world. You begin to see your life as a living myth, and you, the conscious ego, are in active, collaborative dialogue with the mythmaker, the self. This collaboration feels less like you steering the ship, and more like you are the devoted captain of a ship that has its own destiny, a destiny you are learning to listen for and serve. Synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences that feel like the universe winking at you, ceases to be a paranormal curiosity and becomes the natural language of this relationship. When you are aligned with the self, the inner and outer worlds begin to mirror each other in profound and unexpected ways. A dream presents a powerful symbol, and the next day you stumble upon a book that explains it. You grapple with an inner conflict, and a stranger says the exact words you needed to hear. The universe ceases to be a cold, mechanical place and becomes a living, responsive field of intelligence in which you are a participating cell. This is the poetic, cinematic conclusion to the human struggle for identity. You are not a lonely, isolated self, thrown into an indifferent universe. You are a unique, individual focal point through which the cosmos itself is experiencing and becoming conscious of its own nature. Your personal journey of healing and growth is not a narcissistic self-improvement project. It is a cosmic event. By integrating your shadow, you are integrating a fragment of the world's darkness. By owning your projections, you are withdrawing the collective poison of blame and hatred from the world. By becoming whole, you are adding a unit of coherence to a fractured reality. The final, most powerful action is not a dramatic, external feat. It is the quiet, daily practice of turning inward. It is to ask, moment by moment, not, "What do I want?" but, "What wants to live through me?" It is to kneel at the altar of your own soul and listen for the whisper of the self in the rustle of your anxiety, in the ache of your longing, in the quiet pulse of your intuition. So imagine waking up one day, not to silence but to a profound and humming aliveness. The internal chatter is still there, but it has lost its compulsive power. You feel a deep, unshakable grounding, as if you are a mountain, and the passing weather of your thoughts and emotions are just that. Passing weather. You look in the mirror, and for the first time, you do not see a mask to be adjusted or a flaw to be fixed. You see a face, beautifully human, etched with the story of your becoming. You see a mystery that you will spend a lifetime loving, not solving. The world outside has not changed. Its chaos, its beauty, its injustice, its wonder, all of it remains. But you have changed. You are no longer a ghost in the machine, terrified of the dark. You have met the ghost, you have learned its name, and you have discovered that it was never a ghost at all. It was the neglected, forgotten, and holy core of your own being. You are now, finally, at home in the mansion of your soul. You are no longer the tenant. You are the master of the house, and your life, from this moment forward, is not a problem to be solved, but a sacred drama to be lived.